Hey everybody, I'm Tracker with South Florida Insider, and today I'm joined with Rhys-Davies and Brittany Bristow for their new movie, Shadowtown. Hey guys, how are you guys doing?
Pretty darn good.
Wonderful, thank you.
So I saw the movie just recently, and I must say it was wonderful. I was on the edge of my seat the entire time. But one thing I really noticed was like the cinematography and the landscape of the movie was just incredible. So what was it like filming in Iceland and going through that experience?
Not my first trip to Iceland, but certainly a wonderful experience. I only have a minuscule part in it. My basic role in life is to support and encourage and develop young Brittany's career. So I'm always there in a supporting way. But yeah, I loved it, and I have to say I piggybacked a bit of my filming for a project of mine on the back end of it, so I liked it even more.
Yeah, filming in Iceland was wonderful. I also have been there before. It was my, I think, third time or fourth time in Iceland, and having an opportunity to spend a lengthy period of time there was really exciting, and being able to really use this space around us as a character in the film was really special as well. But yeah, it's an incredible place to be. It's an incredible place to see, and the landscape is ever changing. Every way you look, there's different things to see. There's of course the cityscape, but there's also, the black sands, and it's an incredible place to be. And it lent itself very well to the film. So it was really special.
And they're lovely people as well. And they really helped us so much
Yes.
with the film.
Speaking of the people, I was going to ask, how important was it to have a largely Icelandic crew to really help capture that essence and feel of the country?
I think that one thing that the Icelandic crew was able to bring was such a unique way of storytelling. When you look at the art department, some of the people aren't from Iceland, but they've been living in Iceland for a long time. You had a group of people who understood the culture and the history of where we were filming, which is so important to the film itself. My character is an outsider to this world. She doesn't understand the culture of Iceland. She doesn't understand the way that people lived their lives and how they kept their history close to them. So it was really important, I think, especially in that aspect. And the lighting, Iceland has a very unique lightscape, in my opinion, being one of the countries that goes through periods where it either doesn't get dark or it doesn't get light, or it's light for a very short period of time. So having people who really understood Iceland as a space and also understood the history of the culture of people in Iceland was really important to navigate so much of the story.
Your ancestry is partly Icelandic, is it not?
It is, yeah, on my dad's side.
How is Dad, by the way? Give him my love.
I will. He's doing well. He misses you always.
Well, I think the only person who's more fond of you than me is your dad.
If you can't tell, John and I have known each other for a long time.
Yeah, I was actually going to ask about that because I was looking at some of the behind the scenes photos, and you guys seem to have a very close relationship and get along very well. So if you want to walk through how you guys met and whatnot, that would be great.
Oh boy, that's an embarrassing story for me. John and I met in 2011, I think, 10 years ago.
And how old were you then?
I was 21, and we were working on a film called Sophie and Sheepa, and I was enamored by John. I have always loved him. I've always loved his films. And I had to call him to introduce myself, and I left the most panicked voicemail I think I've ever left on anyone's machine in my life. And I don't even, I think I called him, I think I said, Mr. Rhys-Davies, Mr. John Rhys-Davies. And then I gave him the phone number he could call me back at, but I forgot the first three numbers. It was just a very embarrassing moment for me, but we've been working together ever since.
It all works out in the end, at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Yes. Watching Brittany develop as an actress has been a real joy. And I loved her the moment I met her and listened to her messages. And it goes on. It's whenever we get the chance to work together, we take it, and it's, you know, it's like a very comfortable pair of old slippers that we fall into.
So, John, I know you took on this role. You've said it before that you were doing this role to support Brittany, but can you walk us through a little more what the decision to take on this role was, and just talk through that a bit?
Well, actors do parts for many different reasons, and a major part of this was basically the fondness and affection that I have for Brittany and her parents. We've worked together on a number of occasions, and it's always a delight. But the script and the story I thought was wonderful, and it really catches you, doesn't it? Really, because I mean, if you think of that Gauguin painting, who am I? Where am I going to? Where did I come from? I mean, that's the essence of modernism captured. And it is one of the core needs of human lives. What are my roots? You know, who were those who came before me that made me? And I love those sorts of films. Sorry.
Yeah, I totally missed that analysis upon my first watching, but now that you bring it up, that's absolutely what the essence of the film is. And Brittany, you do a really good job of, you mentioned before you were kind of, your character is an outsider. And you have a lot of moments of, you know, lacking information, whether it be due to a language barrier or just not being told things. So how as an actress do you get into that mindset of like, I need to act as if I'm totally unaware of what is going on?
I think a big part of that for me was actually not so much playing to that. It was more so developing who Maya was as a person. And the character is very internal in so much of what she does. She's been raised by a single mother who hasn't told her the truth about who she is her whole life. She feels disconnected from people even before she goes to Iceland. So having that disconnect and understanding that as a character, I was someone who felt disconnected from the people around her, it lent to feeling more disconnected when I was suddenly not being told what was going on. I was in this strange place that, you know, I don't know why there are certain things that are just appearing in the hallway. I don't understand the language. I don't understand what whatever is out there is trying to tell me. So I think the basis of who Maya was and building that part of the character lent itself really well to taking her into a space where she was unfamiliar with what was going on, because without the building blocks, you can't just walk into a scenario and be like, well, I'm an outsider because I don't know what's going on. But if you have those building blocks of somebody who also doesn't let people in, I think that's a big part of it. Is not only does she feel disconnected, but that disconnect is also because of how she was raised. She feels fearful of letting people into her. And so she actually puts up a boundary as well. So I think that was a big part of it for me.
John, I want to get to your character as well. You mentioned, and you are largely correct, your character plays a somewhat minimal role, but in my opinion, it's also the turning point of the movie, is the introduction of your character. So can you kind of talk through what drew you to that, and like that, for me, that was kind of the most impactful part of the film.
Well, I don't want to act as a spoiler here, but he's,
right.
He is an important part in the development of the story, and a pretty important part in helping her get a true picture and a true understanding of of that situation. Brittany, help out here. Help out here.
Well, his character is so vital in that I think it's sort of like the door into her understanding who she is in a lot of ways. It's the door into understanding that there are people that you can trust. It's the door that opens and allows her to sort of see clearly for the first time. And in trusting someone outside of herself who she feels in some way like she has to pay attention to, she's given this opportunity to understand and to trust in herself. But also I think, John, the way that you played that character, I don't know that anyone else would have had the ability to have it mean so much. Because
you're very flattering, but go on.
Thank you. You know me, I'm just here to build you up. No, but I really do feel that way. And I think that the characters are so interesting in that they're both dealing with their aloneness and what it means to be willing to face who they are.
Yes.
And what matters to them in their life. They're just at very different points. They sort of mirror each other in a really interesting way as well. So when they finally meet, they're both given permission to then move forward in whatever way they both need to, which is really interesting to me.
Yes.
Yeah, and I think you guys having that relationship also helps the on-screen chemistry of like, there is somewhat of a trust, even though there's still unknowns in the shot and in the scene. But anyway, moving on from the more analytical.
But you also get the point that there is almost a genetic trust that the two characters have,
right?
Because their genetic history is
so
very similar, and it was very useful for us being long-standing friends, and to have that because you bring that backstory of our mutual affection for each other, and you morph that into something. There is a connection, and that's interesting too.
Absolutely. Brittany, one last question for you on the role and on Maya's character. Obviously it's a little different than your previous roles, much more dramatic, but how was it getting into that mind? Like, how was it just taking on this role and having a change of pace, I guess?
Honestly, it was really exciting. Maya is actually a character that I have had with me for a number of years. Jan first approached me about the film when I was in my early 20s, I believe. So I actually worked with him to help develop the character. I knew the script as it went through its many different stages, as it changed from one story to another. And I flew out to Iceland about 2 years previous to work with him to create sort of a mood reel for it. So I was really hands-on in the process of building Maya. So I felt like I really knew her. And I do think there's something, I do a lot of rom-coms. I do a lot of happy-go-lucky romance movies, and they're really, really fun. I love doing them. But there is something really rewarding about taking on a character that, to be honest, a lot of people didn't think I was capable of doing, and being really proud of the work that I did at the end. Because I think as an actor, you constantly want to take on parts that challenge you. And if you're not challenged, what you're doing doesn't seem always as exciting. And I think you can build challenges into the work you're doing. You can build the characters as much as you want, no matter what the story is. And that's part of what I do. And that's part of what I love doing is my prep for these roles. But with Maya, it was slightly different in that I was able to access a slightly different side of myself. I was able to access the darker sides. I was able to assess and to build in a way that was unfamiliar. And it was just so much fun. And I loved doing it. And I would love to do it again. So hopefully people will think I can do it from now on.
Well, you did a phenomenal job. Both of you did.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Moving on now, I do have two questions based on John's previous roles. So firstly, there has been some talk about a Sliders reboot. Now I know your character met an untimely demise, but what are your thoughts on this reboot? What do you think, especially now that technology has gotten so much more advanced than it was in the 90s?
Well, I think it would make perfect sense to reinvent the franchise because we are all a lot older now. It's very easy to devise scenarios that bring us back together. I mean, just as a business proposition, I would say, look, get the four of them back together. Use that first season to start bringing along others on those journeys as well. See if you can find likable personalities that can be sustained over more than an episode or two. And by the end of the second season, start breaking up the original group as well and leave it with Jerry by now beginning to assume both his own mature personality, but also the leadership that Max Arturo brings. And then I think then that you could continue the franchise for another 5, 6, 7, 8 seasons. And then you've got a number of newcomers ready to take over the thing in 10 years' time.
Well, here's hoping. Fingers crossed. We'll see what happens. But and then finally, before I let you guys go, because I'm gonna have to let you go soon, but it has been a pleasure talking to you. When I told my sisters, though, that I was going to be interviewing Gimli from Lord of the Rings, A, they lost it, and B, they begged me to ask this question. So I need to know, Legolas or Aragorn?
There it is.
First and foremost, it's Gimli, right? With all due modesty, one can clearly say that Lord of the Rings is really a dwarf's leadership story about how he took a young hobbit all the way to Mount Doom in order to redeem and save the world. It's a common dwarf story, I have to tell you, with the assistance of 1 or 2 others, including a pointy-eared devil who keeps doing that with his bow and arrow and cheating all the darn time. Right. And I love your sister. She's got
Well, thank you so much. That was amazing.
Pointy-eared devil. All right. Oh, there we are. What?
I love you so much. Oh my God.
That was amazing. That was my top interview ever. That was incredible. Yeah, that was amazing.
There's no fool like an old fool, is there really? But there you are. Oh, how the hell do I get this back on now? Ah, there we are. Oh, look, I've almost got pointy ears now, they're little round ears. Oh, well.
All right, well, I'm gonna have to let you guys go. I've got to get going shortly, but it was a pleasure talking to you. The film was wonderful. You guys were wonderful. And I hope I can talk to you guys again in the future.